The Mueller report is just another snow job to smear Trump. And he is the victim again of the same tactic. To state the obvious, there's no legal risk. He was found not guilty for colluding with the Russians or conspiracy, nor whether his family found guilty either. And the Attorney General decided that there was no basis for a case of obstruction, so there's no criminal liability. But all of this has nothing to do with Trump going to jail. It's always been about smearing Trump, making him ineffective. The whole Russian collusion, as I've mentioned in the monologues before, they knew that there was no collusion. Strzok said there's no there. So why did they do it? Well, it worked very well because he was exposed to headline risk every day by the mainstream media, claiming that he was a traitor, that he was colluding with the Russians, that he was going down and having Avenatti on or anybody else who would say horrible things about Trump and that would claim that they had the evidence. Schiff claiming that he had the evidence. They all claimed they had the evidence, but there was no real evidence, of course. And the purpose was not really to put him in jail, to find him guilty of collusion or conspiracy, which is the actual crime. Collusion's not a crime. So the purpose, as I've mentioned before, was simply to create this headline risk, having all these horrible headlines, and it worked. That's the point. You got a Democrat Congress. You have Pelosi making trouble for Trump and all the chairmen of the Democrat committees, which will now make trouble forever, until the next election at least, for Trump. And so they didn't need to find any evidence. They knew there was no evidence, but they achieved their end. And by the way, they're going to try to do the same thing regarding the obstruction of justice charge and the investigations, because they're addicted to this game. And it worked out pretty well for them, so they're going to try it again. Now, they may not go for impeachment, but they'll certainly go for these investigations. So anyway, as you may recall, I explained all of this in my previous monologues, and that's why way back a year and a half ago, or a year, I don't know how long it was, I suggested he had to go in there and clean house. There was a lot of ways he could make a recess appointment, all kinds of ways to get a different attorney general in there, and then expose the corruption, expose Mueller and all his angry Democrats and henchmen, as we've mentioned before. He didn't do that. He went the conservative, timid strategy, cooperated with them to the nth degree, gave them every witness they wanted, answered every question, And now what? Did he get any credit for that? No. They're going after him for obstruction, not Mueller, because Mueller didn't dare make a claim. And of course, they have a lot of sneaky stuff in there. It's a smear job. The Obstruction of Justice book, the second tome of this report, is all about information to smear Trump. Again, that's it. And giving the Democrats leads on what to investigate. So once again, taxpayer money, the government resources, is used again by one partisan, that's Mueller and his 17 angry Democrats against Trump, a Republican. And so that is actually what's happening in this second stage. So it's really the same game. It's what they did originally, which was do the counterintelligence investigation. That was based on no predicate, no probable cause. That investigation had the same purpose: to make Trump ineffective, to tarnish him, to limit his ability to implement his policies and to be effective as a president. And it's amazing that Trump was able to achieve everything he did in spite of all this harassment and these headlines. Fortunately, he has Twitter. Anyway, it's a sad state of affairs, and it's going to continue into the presidential election. Now, the only good thing that can happen now is that we can expose the conspirators in the Justice Department and the FBI and put them in jail. The people that violated the law in order to pursue their political interest, which was to destroy the Republican and help the Democrats. It's just a partisan witch hunt, like Trump said. They spied on him with no basis, no probable cause. Now, I made a whole monologue about probable cause and why it's in the Constitution. And the Founding Fathers, as I said then, were very wise. They explained that in order for the citizens to be secure in their homes and persons, they could not be exposed to government investigations and the government apparatus, the judicial department of the government, either state or federal, without probable cause. And they just didn't limit it to this statement of probable cause. Somebody has to make a sworn statement, affirmation, under oath, or be responsible. And of course, the reason for that is if it's a lie, they can, and that in those days, and could be legally responsible. So people were careful. They didn't have this stupid doctrine that they had with Sullivan versus the New York Times, or New York Times versus Sullivan, where these people in the media can lie through their teeth, and then when they're exposed, they say, well, we just made an innocent mistake or whatever, when in fact the criteria to judge them should be, is what you said true? If it's not true, you're responsible for the damages. Anyway, those Founding Fathers were really smart, and they knew that the people, the citizens, wouldn't be able to be secure if the government could institute a criminal investigation against anybody they wanted without evidence. And there's a reason for that. If the government can do that, then everybody is intimidated. Everybody is afraid to say anything against the government, to go against the government, because they can feel the wrath of the government come down on them, and they want to avoid it. So the people are not free to exercise their freedom of speech because they're afraid. They're afraid of being attacked, of reprisals by the government. That's why that Fourth Amendment is in there. That's why they require probable cause. And they didn't get that for the counterintelligence investigation that they started this whole thing with. By the way, if they thought that they had evidence that there was somebody in Trump's campaign that was a Russian agent or cooperating with the Russians to undermine the United States or whatever, they should have done like they did with the lady senator, I forgot her name, Feinstein, I think it is. They should have just gone up and told them. But they didn't do that. No, because their purpose wasn't to prevent the Russians from influencing the government. Their purpose was to have an excuse to investigate Trump, get the cameras in there, get the wiretapping, spy on him. Like he said, and everybody was laughing that he said he was being spied on. Well, of course, he was. And they were spying on him without a predicate, and now the Attorney General says he's going to investigate this. I hope he does, because there's a lot of guys that need to go to jail for violating laws that prohibit the government from doing these things. And so that's what it was, and that's what we need to do right now. What we need to do now is, like Levin said, I think, Mark Levin, he said, we have to pummel them into the ground, or else they'll grow again and sprout up again. They're like weeds. You have to take them out. And as I said before, politics ain't beanbag, as they say. It's a blood sport. And this politics now is vicious. It's all about who can put who in jail. And now the Republicans finally have a attorney general who apparently is willing to investigate crimes and has referrals. And I hope that enough of these people go to jail so the next bunch of political hacks or, government swamp people that want to use the government to advance their partisanship, they'll think twice about it, because they know other guys went to jail, which is, by the way, why we have a criminal law. It's supposed to dissuade people, to disincentivize them from committing crimes. And that's what happened. And it's very obvious that they didn't have a predicate. Let me prove it to you. Papadopoulos was over there in London, and this guy, Stephen Halpern, a professor, which was also over there, just happened to go and find him accidentally in a bar. I explained before in another monologue, they had set a honey trap for him to get him to talk and talk dirt. So Halpern referred him to some Russian guy, I can't remember the name, and I think it was somewhere else. And Papadopoulos was offered, I think they claim, he was offered dirt, so he went over there to investigate, to see what it was all about. So, based on that, and the Steele dossier, which was the main thing that they used, they got the FISA warrant against Carter Page, and that's how they got their television wiretapping on all the people, all the goings-on inside the Trump campaign. And later, they tried it inside the Trump presidency. So, we know that there was no predicate. Why? Because who paid Halpern to go over there to talk to Papadopoulos? He didn't go there on his own. Somebody hired him. In all likelihood, somebody in the counterintelligence field, national security, or whatever. Somebody sent him there. What was the basis for hiring him and sending him over there? There was no predicate. There was no evidence of any crime. There was no probable cause to assume that Trump was committing any crime or in league with the Russians. They just wanted to investigate him, to take him down, to make him ineffective, to catch him. But they didn't find anything. As Strzok said, there's no there. So, what happened? Comey was fired. Rosenstein recommended that he be fired, and Trump follow the recommendation, and he had a right to fire him because he was not a good FBI director. He violated the FBI rules, took over the Justice Department role, started to talk about what they were going to do or not do, and that's not what prosecutors are supposed to do. They're supposed to keep quiet, either indict or not indict, which is another problem with the Mueller report. They speculated about everything under the sun. That's not the job of the prosecutor. The prosecutor has to say there's enough evidence to find him guilty. If not, we just assume he's not guilty, because people are innocent until proven guilty in America. So far, apparently. Anyway, that's how we know that there was no predicate to start this counterintelligence investigation. Right from the beginning, there was no predicate, and they started it because they hated Trump. And even after they found there wasn't any evidence, they used a dossier by Steele that was information fed by who? By the Russians. To who? To Hillary and the DNC, who paid for GPS to hire this guy, even though the FBI had thrown him out because he lied and was untrustworthy. They still used it to do the FISA application. And all these people that did all these nefarious things, this conspiracy, this illicit scheme to frame Donald Trump and his associates and even his family. I mean, it's vicious. They go after everyone. It's like Genghis Khan. They don't just want to knock you off. They want to knock all your family off and your friends. It's vicious. I tell you, things are vicious, and the only way to deal with that is to be just as vicious back. And that's what I think they should do. So I wish Attorney General luck, and I hope he puts some of these crooks in jail and nobody else tries to pull this stunt again in our country. Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening and watching.